This is a quick video on the tech stack I'm using to build my app Stubbit and why I chose it. So the three main technologies I'm using to build my app are React Native, Expo, and Supabase. I'm using React Native because I only want to write things once and be able to deploy it to Android and iOS. Like I said before, it's really well supported, massive community out there, super popular. I'm using Expo, which is a React Native development framework, and honestly, I'm only using that because it's what's used in this tutorial that I've been following. I didn't really know what it was before I started doing the tutorial, so I just kind of went along with it, but haven't got as far as I've got now. I understand what it's useful for. It basically simplifies the development process by providing a set of libraries and APIs and things like that to make things a lot smoother and easier, and allows you to access the native functionality of the device in a more straightforward way, basically. And finally, Supabase. The reason I chose this, and I did actually pick it rather than just being kind of railroaded into it by tutorial, is because I knew about Firebase before because I had a friend who actually run an agency that created apps, and I know they used Firebase as their backend as a service. So I initially looked at that, but when I looked at Firebase, I saw that they use NoSQL for their database rather than SQL databases, and basically I just thought, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the reason for that is not laziness, but impatience. I come from a SQL background, so I know a bit of SQL, and to be honest, I didn't want to have to go through and learn a whole nother technology before I could even start. I looked for Firebase alternatives, and I found Supabase, which is free, it's open source, it does very similar things to Firebase, but thankfully for me, it uses a SQL database, which helps me use the knowledge I've already got to get up and running a lot quicker. And I mean, that's one thing, that's one of the key things I found going through this process of building an app and learning all this stuff from the beginning, is that there's so fucking much to learn. Like, it's unreal. And I think you kind of forget that once you've actually started learning things and you started making progress. You forget how bewildering everything is at the beginning. Like, to just do one thing, it's like playing Skyrim, and you've got your main quest and you're like, okay, I'll do this one next step, that should be fine, that should be easy. But then in order to do that, you have to go on 12 different side quests to learn 12 different technologies. Like, for example, when I started doing React Native itself, I thought, oh cool, I've done JavaScript, I've done React, it should be fairly straightforward to move across. And I guess in the scheme of things it is. But I started to build my screens and components. Everything had to be in TypeScript, and I just thought, what the f***? Like, this is a whole nother technology that I have to learn, or a whole nother framework that I have to learn. And I mean, I've kind of got by and got the gist of TypeScript now, but I still have tutorials sitting on my YouTube to watch list about it, because, you know, I still need to get to grips with it properly. But for every little thing, you have to go and learn 12 other things. And I think that's one of the more, it is challenging, but I suppose more frustrating aspects of this process is that you want to make progress, but every 2 steps you have to go and learn an entire new framework, an entire new library, an entire new language, which kind of slows you down a bit. It's a bit annoying, but yeah, I guess it is what it is. And yeah, like I was saying, I think you kind of forget that at the beginning. I mean, you know, the first time I saw someone using VS Code, it looked like they were in a matrix to me. But now obviously it just looks standard. And even when you see people messing around on command line, and you think they're in a matrix when all they're doing is struggling to navigate folders. But I think you forget think you forget how vast everything is when you're just trying to pick all this stuff up. So anyone out there who's nailed it and is super proficient and is super great at all this, give yourself a pound on the back and enjoy the 1 or 2 years you've got left before AI takes your job. But with that rant out of the way, yeah, I mean, I guess I should speak a bit about what Supabase is. It's a backend as a service, so it provides your database, your storage, your authentication, security, all in one nice neat package that all, it's a service basically, and saves a lot of the manual legwork of setting those things up individually. So yeah, 3 pillars mainly: Expo to help with the development, React Native as the main thing, and Supabase as the backend. Additional tech that I will be using or am using already. I was using the React Context API for state management, but I've ripped that out for basically it was overcomplicating things. That'll be in a video later. But yeah, I don't need that at the moment. It's pretty good for relatively simple state management, but I may need to look into something like Redux at a late point if I need to use state management at a more complex scale. For navigation, I'm using Expo Router just because I'm using Expo, which is fine. Styling, I'm using just plain old CSS at the moment. Like I said in my Figma video, I'm kind of leaving the front end for the time being and coming back to it later. And I will probably look at Tailwind CSS. That seems to be the one to go to at the moment. But yeah, that's something I need to look at later. For offline and synchronization, I'm using async storage. I'm using Formic for my forms. In terms of analytics and monitoring, I haven't really looked at that yet, but I know there's Expo Analytics, which I'll probably look at, and we use Sentry at work, so at least I have some familiarity with that. So it could be useful. Testing, I'll be using Jest, JavaScript testing for integration and unit tests, and Detox probably for end-to-end testing. In terms of CI/CD, again, haven't got around to that yet, haven't needed to, but I use GitHub Actions at work, so I'll stick to using that. And I'm sure I will be looking at some sort of data visualization library at some point for all the lovely and very pretty charts and animations and all that stuff that I want to implement. So yes, that's the technology I'm using at the moment, subject to change as things progress and as my knowledge expands basically. So yeah, there we go, that's what I'm using, and hopefully soon we'll start to get onto the nitty-gritty of some of the coding. Alright, thanks for watching, see you later.